to give you everything that you need to finally power through and break free from that narcissist. It's just so exhausting. And they make you feel small. They make you feel like you're going crazy. They make you feel paralyzed. And know that feeling. They literally suck the energy out of you. And especially the ones that are like, really, really good at it. The covert narcissists are the ones that are really good at it, where they have something that we call plausible deniability, which means that they have this ability to literally do things where everybody else in the world thinks that they're amazing, wonderful, good human beings, and they can keep themselves looking pristine, perfect, not a hair touched on their head. So when you go to tell people what they've done, everyone else goes, I don't know, that doesn't seem so bad. Or maybe you're blowing it out of proportion. Or maybe that was inadvertent. They seem like such a good person. They seem so nice. So you end up seeming like you're the crazy one, or you're contributing to it too, or they spin it around so that they seem like they're the calm ones and you're the ones out of control. And they do this so that the marriage counselors are on board with this plan too. I mean, it is unbelievable how good they are at this. So if you really want to be able to spin this around, you really want to be able to stop this craziness, you want to be able to disarm the narc. And by the way, I've got a whole download that goes with this. Go to disarmthenarc.com so that you can get your own download that goes with this, get your own phrases. So you don't even need to make sure you write all this down, because I'm going to just give it to you. Just go to disarmthenarc.com so that you can just download it. All right. So here are your 20 phrases. Ready? Number 1, I'm not going to tolerate your behavior. I'm not going to tolerate your behavior. You can just say that, and you don't need to scream it, and you don't need to yell it, and you don't need to say it in any sort of fashion. You don't need to have tone. If they're screaming, they're yelling, they're saying things that are in any way, you're not feeling good about it, you just need to say, I'm not going to tolerate your behavior. Here's something that I'm going to say to you. There's certain things that are negotiable, and there's certain things that are not. Here's what's negotiable: terms of contracts. Here's what's not negotiable: your self-respect. So, you can just say, I'm not going to tolerate your behavior. So that's number 1. Number 2, you can say, I'm not going to allow you to speak to me that way. If you're not feeling comfortable with it, they're speaking to you in a way where they're degrading you, they're talking down to you, they're disrespecting you, they're yelling at you, you can just say, I'm not going to allow you to speak to me that way. And you don't have to. That's the beautiful thing. Nobody is holding you hostage. You can get up, you can walk away. And even if they yell, you don't get up, don't walk away, it's okay. It really is okay, because you have your self-respect. So you can just say, I'm not going to allow you to speak to me that way. And you don't have to. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, I'm not going to let you treat me like this. Again, I'm telling you right now that narcissists, the people that they respect the most, are the people who don't allow them to treat however they want. You will start to see a shift in how they treat you. They may scream, they may yell, they may act like they don't like it, but you will start to see little shifts in their behavior. You have been conditioned by them, and you need to start conditioning them back. So when you start to say, I'm not going to tolerate your behavior, I'm not going to allow you to speak to me that way, and I'm not going to allow you to treat me like this, things will start to change. The next one is, I deserve to be treated with respect. So you're drawing a line. You're saying, I deserve to be treated with respect, and you're letting them know there's a new game in town. Things are different now. I give people a 3-step process. Step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. You're no longer walking backwards. You're pivoting. You're walking forward now. And as you're making that pivot, you're going to start to present your offers. You're going to start to speak. You're going to start to stand up for yourself. And as this process unfolds incrementally, step 3, you're going to start to break free. Number 5, you need to stop this immediately. You know, when you start to create boundaries, that's when they start to realize that there is a new game in town. So in that vein, you're no longer saying you can contact me in 57 different ways. You're saying you only get to contact me in one way. Maybe it's just through text message. Maybe it's just through email. Email is the best, by the way. There's a time and date stamp. Everything is documented the right way. You need to stop this immediately, number 5. Number 6, I'm warning you, if you don't stop, I will take action. Is it a threat? Yes. But you are going to follow through with it. What kind of action? Who knows? You may call your attorney. You may call the police. You may leave. Who knows what that action is? But action means action. You need to follow through with your action. Whatever that is, you've got to follow through with it. Because if you don't, they will never believe you ever again. That's number 6. Number 7, this has to stop now. If it doesn't, what are you going to do about it? Number 8, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And if it doesn't stop, what are you going to do about it? Number 9 is similar. Enough is enough. You know, when things aren't happening the way you want them to, what are you going to do about it? The next one is, I can see that you're upset. I like when you can start to observe their behavior. I like when you can start to take yourself out of it and just start to watch them, because that will help you no longer be baited by them. The more you can start to do that, the less you will be dragged into their conversation, the less you will feel like you're sucked into that vortex of insanity. The next one is, you're out of line. You're just letting them know you are not in a place that I feel comfortable. So that's number 10. And number 12 is, you're crossing the line. Number 12 is, you're letting them know that you had set a boundary and they're no longer on the other side of that boundary. You're crossing the line. You're crossing the line that I have set for you. So I'm not allowing you to pass that line. Number 13 is, you're pushing your luck. You're pushing your luck. Number 14 is, you've pushed me too far. You've pushed me too far. Number 15 is, if you don't back off, I'm going to take action. And again, I want you to actually take action. I want you to actually take a look at the options that you have and actually take action based on the options that you have, you know, whatever they are. So, you know, if you're in a court case, then you can take a look at the cases that, you know, the options that you have in your situation. But, you know, if you don't have a court case, then, you know, take a look at whatever your you know, your options are. But, you know, just take a look at, should you file a motion? Should you, you know, leave, or whatever it is that you have, you know, your options are. The next one is, you might want to consider. So in other words, you are just saying something to them about what they may want to consider based on what's happening in front of them at that moment. The next one is you have every right to your opinion. It's fine that they have their opinion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's your opinion, which is fine. And then the next one is that's an interesting perspective. You're just observing, again, their behavior. That's an interesting perspective. And I love that one because it's observing what it is that they said. You're not getting involved with whatever it is that they said. You're just saying that's an interesting perspective. And it just keeps things neutral. The next one is your anger is not my responsibility, because a lot of times they want to say, you made me angry. This happened because of you. And this pushes it back on them and says, hey, you are angry. Your anger is not my responsibility. Just the same as if you're angry, their anger is not your responsibility. Somebody can choose to get angry or choose to stay calm. Nobody's anger is anybody else's responsibility but their own. How you choose to respond to a situation is everybody's own responsibility, own choice. And that is such an eye-opening thought. It really is very eye-opening about anger. And the last one is one of my favorites, which is I agree with you. Now, you got to be careful with this one because you don't want to say, I agree with you that I'm a horrible mother or a deadbeat dad. But I like to say, I agree with you on certain things, because you can say, I agree with you that that's your perspective. I agree with you that that's what you think, because, it's a way to kind of calm somebody down in a way, because you're saying, I agree with you, but in a way, you're saying you're not agreeing to anything. And I love being able to do that. I love being able to say, I agree with you, and agreeing to nothing. It's kind of a trick. In a way, it's ethically manipulating the manipulator, because you're actually saying, I agree, and you're agreeing to zero. So I'm just going to throw in a couple more for you just for fun, to say that you have a few more. A few others are okay, and you just say nothing. You just acknowledge that they spoke, and take no bait. You just say, okay. And like, the less you say, the more they just want you to say more, and you've said nothing. You say, okay. Another one you can say is using we phrases, like, we can fix this, or we can work on this, because that kind of diffuses situations as well. Another thing that you can say is, I hear you, because I hear you just acknowledges that you're hearing them. And that makes people feel better, because you're acknowledging them. It acknowledges what people are saying, and you're not defending yourself, and you're not fighting back. You're just acknowledging what somebody is saying. So it's a good thing to do sometimes. And you can also say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that's what you think. I'm sorry that's how this is going. I mean, it's not really saying I'm sorry at all. You're just saying, I'm sorry that's what you think. Or the other one you could do is what I hear you saying, and then just sort of repeat what they say.
What to say to shut down that narcissist in your life. So remember that a narcissist wants to control you. That's how they get their feeling of narcissistic supply. That's what feeds them, is, controlling you, intimidating you, making you feel awful, debasing you, sending you into a panic. And if you want to know how to make a narcissist panic, you should definitely check out my my video on how to make a narcissist panic. You know, they want to send you into that state of panic. They want you to be the one who's like on the defensive all the time. And I help people negotiate with narcissists, negotiate with toxic personalities, get the edge, get that leverage, figure out how to finally turn those tables, how to finally shift that dynamic, and so that you're the one feeling powerful, because they want you to feel like you can never win. They want you to feel like it's never going to end. And they will continue to do that as long as they're getting some sort of narcissistic supply, which is, you know, that smug satisfaction that they're controlling you and getting the edge over you. They're going to continue to be in your life. And that's why some of you have been dealing with these people for years. And, you know, they collect people as forms of supply, like people collect jars of jam or something for the winter. You know, they line them up on the shelves and go, oh, I can get more supply out of this one. I can get more supply out of that one. So as long as they're getting some form of narcissistic supply from you, you're going to continue to have to deal with them. It's like taking that fire and sucking all the oxygen away from it. That's the only way that you'll finally be able to shut them down. So the first way that you can shut down that narcissist is to just say no. And if you want to know more about what happens when you say no to the narcissist, you should definitely check out my video on what happens when you say no to a narcissist, when you just say no. What happens is that the narcissist is so used to controlling you. They've set up this elaborate situation where you feel powerless, where you feel like, oh, I can't ever, you know, get away from this. And it's almost so foreign to you. It's like putting on somebody else's clothes or somebody else's shoes. You know, you're thinking, ugh, I can't, seems so strange to me. What's going to happen? You know, is the world going to fall apart? Are they going to lose control on me? And if you want to know what happens when a narcissist loses control, check out my video on that. But you know, when you say no to a narcissist, it's you starting to take back your power. It's you starting to say, you know what, this is not okay. I'm going to say no. I'm not going to do that thing that you think that I should do. I'm not going to be that person that you think that I should be. I'm not going to take the deal that you're offering me. I'm not going to take the, you know, the settlement proposal. I'm going to fight back. I'm going to push back. I'm going to go for what I want. And yeah, maybe there might be some backlash from it, but even if you trigger their narcissistic rage because you've you know, touched on their narcissistic injury in some way, just remember that the narcissist is always the worst right before they're ready to give up. So just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. The narcissist is one of the most scared little people on the planet. The not so secret is that you are actually the stronger one. They didn't attach themselves to you because you had no value. They attached themselves to you because you have so much value, because they can get that narcissistic supply from you. So try out just saying no to them for one or two things and see how it goes. The second thing is, I hear you. All people want to feel seen, heard, and know that they matter. And I talk about that in my book, Negotiate Like You Matter. It's actually in my book. Matter is the acronym for how to negotiate, and M actually stands for my value is defined by me. You and you alone define your value. We all want to know that we matter. That's all part of being human. And, you know, in some ways we all have like a narcissist in us, but it's not, we don't use that word, because what narcissism really is when it gets to the pathological stage where, you know, they can't see anybody but themselves, and they can't feel anything for anyone but themselves. And so they're just constantly, you know, doing whatever they can to feel that. So if you say, I hear you, it actually kind of softens them a little bit, and they stop like barking right at you and going right after you because they feel seen, heard, and they know that they matter. Sometimes it's called narcissistic fluffing, where you fluff up their ego a little bit. You know, you can give them a little compliment or something just to get what you want in exchange for something. But just saying, I hear you, that will help to shut them down. The next thing is saying, I trust you, or I trust that. And it's kind of like what I talk about in my book, which is embedded commands, where you're basically kind of telling them how you feel. I trust that you care about the children. I trust that you want a good settlement. This is all part of what I talk about with ethically manipulating the manipulator. That's a really, really important part of how you get to slaying the narcissist in negotiation. And I talk about my slay methodology in my program, which is slay your negotiation with a narcissist. So strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focus on you. But when you say, you know, I trust you, or I trust that, you're kind of like putting thoughts out there that they can't disagree with. So it helps to shut them down. The next one is say nothing. Just continue to look at them, let them rant, let them rave. Just, you know, put yourself in a situation as if you're watching it in a movie, or you're watching a scene on a stage in a play, or you're watching a 2-year-old have a tantrum on the floor. You're just going, okay, you know, I'm watching you, so you don't say anything. And saying nothing just absolutely drives them crazy, and it helps to shut them down, because eventually there's nothing to fight with. There's no bait. There's nothing more that they can use. And, you know, sometimes it takes a tremendous amount of restraint to do this, but just try it out and see what happens. Just say nothing. And if you are so ready to shut down that narcissist, give me a shut them down in the comments right now. The next one is everything is okay. This, you know, makes them feel like, hey, we're in this together. We're going to figure this out together. It's all right. I mean, you're sort of treating them like a toddler, because they really are like toddlers. They kind of never really grew out of that stage of, you know, the toddler's creed. What's mine is mine. What's yours is mine. Everything is mine. If I want it, it's mine. If, you know, even if I threw it away, it's still mine. But, you know, that's the old toddler's creed. In this instance, you're just sort of saying, it's okay. Everything's okay. We'll figure this out. You can just calm down, you know, and that's, again, you're not giving them anything to push back on. You know, how can they argue with that? And the last one is my absolute favorite, which is, drum roll please, no contact. Get rid of them. Out. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia. See you later. Hopefully never. Have a nice life, but have it away from me. And that's what I had to do with the narcissists in my life. And thankfully, I haven't had to talk to them for a long time. And hopefully you won't either. Just suck that oxygen away from that fire. Do not give them anything that they can use. Goodbye. You know, enjoy your life somewhere else away from me. And I have to tell you, from my perspective, what I've had to do as well is stay away from even the people that I know are in those people's lives. You know, it's unfortunate. There were people that I liked. There were people that I would have wanted to stay in touch with, but I cannot have any contact or even contact with their flying monkeys or anyone in their worlds, because you know, my peace of mind, my life is not worth what it would take to be involved with anything to have to do with those narcissists. And I promise you it will get so much better. And I promise you that I've helped so many people get past narcissists by negotiating their way out of those relationships and getting the settlement that you deserve. That's fair. That's equitable. I've been able to turn it around It's part of karma. It's part of quantum law. You can do this. You can absolutely put your mind to this and get where you want to get. All right, so let's talk about those 8 phrases that will destroy narcissists. So, first of all, narcissists are extremely fragile. They don't act fragile. I understand that. But they are actually very extremely fragile. In a lot of ways, they're way more scared of you than you are of them. And so, a lot of this, I just want to say at the beginning, you don't want to say these things that are going to and put yourself into a bad position. I don't want you to do anything that's going to put yourself into a position of being potentially afraid, fearful, in fear for your life, in imminent fear of harm in any possible way. So I say all of these things so that you can kind of caution yourself on the best ways to actually phrase something so that you can actually get something that you want out of the situation. Okay, so be very careful when you are saying some of these things. A lot of them I would say don't say. Some of them I would definitely say do say. And I'll kind of like delineate that out as we go forward here. Okay. So the first one is, I know that you are, and then insert like bad thing that they're doing. Like, I know you're lying. I know you're cheating. I know what you're saying isn't true. Anything that exposes them, basically. Like, if you are getting ready to expose a narcissist, you want to be very, very strategic about it. And there are times that you want to do that 100%. And that's going to be part of your leverage and part of an overall strategy that you're creating when you're going to negotiate with them. I am 100% all for ethically manipulating the manipulator and getting them to do something that you want them to do. But you have to be super careful about how and when you are going to present the information. Okay, so the first one is just anything that exposes them. All right, the next one is, I don't remember that. Basically what you're saying in this one is, I'm not paying full attention to everything that you're saying, and that's definitely going to destroy them. They want to feel at least like you are revering them, and they have your adulation, and everything that they're saying and doing you're hanging on. And so if you say something like, I don't remember that, or it's sort of a whatever to me, then that will destroy them. And by the way, kind of, we all want to feel seen, heard, and know that we matter. So some of these things are also things that might be hurtful to any of us, right? Okay, so the next one is, and this is totally a narcissist thing, and that is the I can't right now, or I don't have time for you right now. That's something that a reasonable person will understand. If you are a busy person and maybe you didn't have time to read that text right at that moment, or you didn't have time to you don't have time to drop everything that you're doing and do it right for them right at that moment. But narcissists are extremely easily slighted. And, like they even hear tones, like I always say they hear tones like dogs hear whistles, like, there was no tone, like, but they think it's sarcastic and they think that there's something that you said or did. So you have to be very careful about their ego with that. And I say that because you want to be able to get what you want from them. So you want to be careful about how and when you're going to present things, and how and when you're going to say certain things. So you want to be definitely strategic about that. But if you hear that from them, that's definitely something that that they won't like. So you just got to be careful about the I can or whatever. But of course, have your boundaries, right? Of course, have your own boundaries. All right. So the next one is, you are a failure, or you're a loser. I'm so disappointed in you. Something like that. I mean, you can certainly say things like, you know, um, this isn't working for me. This situation isn't working for me. This conversation isn't working for me. The way you're saying that isn't working for me. Something like that.
You're the way you're coming across. But be very careful about saying things like you're a loser. That's one of those that I would highly recommend you stay away from. You don't want to put yourself into a dangerous situation, and it's not going to get what you want out of the negotiation anyway. All right. So that's that one. And the next one is you caused, like you caused bad things to happen. It's your fault. It's your responsibility, something like that. They definitely don't want to have to take responsibility for anything. If you try to get them to take responsibility for something, then it's, deny, deflect, project, all of those things. And if you've seen that, if you've seen any of these things so far, give me an I've seen it down in the comments below. And you do want to be careful because you don't want them to come unleashing on you, and you don't want them to, have that narcissistic rage come flying out, right? So, okay, the next one is I don't believe you. And this is, where you're basically saying to them, I know you're a liar, and I see through you. I see exactly who you are. And by the way, if you do try to catch a narcissist in a lie, you definitely want to check out my video on that. I have a whole video on what happens when you try to catch a narcissist in a lie. They try to like slither their way out of that situation, right? And sometimes they can be very good at it, but sometimes they think they're better at getting away with it than they actually are. So that's the next one. The next one is just the word no. They don't want to have to be told no. They don't want to have to be told that you're not going to, do exactly what they say when they want you to do it, and all of those sorts of things, right? It's like, they want to have full control over you. They want to know that you are going to jump when they say jump, and they're going to say how high. They work very hard to have control over you. I mean, they like to have control over everything. And so they don't want to hear that word no. That's definitely a word that will destroy them. So, when you are dealing with them, especially in a negotiation setting, there are ways that you can disagree with them without actually disagreeing with them, like by saying no. I mean, you can even say things like, I agree, that's your position. I agree that that's how you feel. I agree that your offer is blah, blah, blah. Then they hear, I agree. So you can say those things without actually having to say no. I mean, you can even say things like, good point, great feedback, thanks for sharing, something like that. And, but blah, 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 blah. You don't have to physically say the word no. Okay. And the last thing that will actually destroy them, even though they treat you terribly sometimes, is the word goodbye. They don't want to see their source of narcissistic supply walking out the door, whether it's in a business relationship or a personal relationship. They do not want to see you walking out the door. So, they don't want to see the word goodbye. It's so confounding because they treat you poorly and then wonder why you want to leave. But that is one of their biggest fears, by the way. And you want to check out my video on what their biggest fears are, is you leaving, you abandoning them. So they don't want to hear that word goodbye.
Here are 10 phrases that stop narcissists. All right. Number one is I agree with you. I agree with you. This is one of my favorite ones. This is one of my favorite ones because it will actually tell you how to, basically shut down a narcissist and stop that narcissist in a way that's basically, I know you're saying I agree with you and you're like, what? Hear me out on this. What the rest of your sentence is going to be, I agree with you that we can agree. I agree with you that that's what you think. You just have to be careful that you're not going to say, I agree with you that obviously that I'm a deadbeat mom or whatever. But you can say, I agree that that's your opinion. I agree that that's what you think. You're basically agreeing with nothing. They hear I agree, and it just stops them. Because what else are they going to say at that point? Our empathic nature is to want to feel things. We want to give vulnerably. We want to be in conversation. We want to have resolutions to things. You're not getting that. So that's the first thing that you need to understand here. You're not going to get a narcissist to acknowledge you. You're not going to get closure. You're not going to get them to see your side. But what you can do is start to have boundaries. What you can do is start to have protection of you, protection of your feelings, protection of the toxicity. And that's what you need to start doing. One of the things I say is step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. So that first step of don't run, that's where you're creating those boundaries. That's where you're starting to say, I need to put up some walls here. I need to start having some place here where I'm not having all this toxicity in my space anymore. Okay. So I agree with you that that's what you think, but you're having a boundary there. And also, if you go to disarmthenarc.com, you can there's some of these, but there's also more free phrases for disarming narcissists that will help you so much. So just go to disarmthenarc.com and you'll get free phrases for disarming narcissists. My gift to you. I'm not going to argue with you. That's number 2. I'm not going to argue with you. And if you just say that, I'm not going to argue with you, what can they do? I'm not going to argue with you. In other words, if somebody's pushing on you and you're not pushing back, you just take it away, it just falls away. I'm not going to argue with you. They're looking for that supply. They're trying to bait you. They want that. They need that. That's their food. It's their lifeblood. It's their oxygen. And if you're not giving it to them, then there's nothing they can do, right? I'm not going to argue with you. That's number 2. Number 3 is I can see that you're upset. You're starting to take yourself out of the equation and starting to look at it as if you are a third party. That helps you so much. I just recently heard it referred to as go to the balcony or something like that. You're taking yourself out of it. You're like getting a breath of fresh air. You're breathing. You're going outside. You're taking a look at it. You're surveying. You're looking down at the lawn. I can see that you're upset. You're just looking at them. It's like looking at a 2-year-old that's having a tantrum on the floor. Okay. I can see that you're upset. Just observing them. Number 4 is I hear you. A lot of times they just want to be heard. They just want to be seen, heard, and understood, just like all of us do, but narcissists like so much more so than others. Okay. So I hear you, and it just stops them. Number 5 is just say, thanks for the feedback, trying to bait you into saying something. I saw that you did this and you can't be doing that. And you're this type of a person. Just, oh, okay. Thanks for the feedback. Like if you go, what? I'm what? That like feeds it. You don't defend yourself when it comes to narcissists. It just gives them credence. It just feeds it. Even when they file motions in the court, it's not evidence. Number 6 is that's an interesting perspective. It's again, like, thanks for the feedback. It just stops them because there's nowhere else to go with that. Number 7 is once you've created boundaries, then you can say, I'm going to have to ask you to respect my boundaries. It gets you a little bit more. You're pushing back a little bit more. It may feel unfamiliar. It's unfamiliar to them too, but it's good for you. It's good to stand up. Number 8, your approach is not working for me. Oh, I love that one. I love using it and I love hearing it when people have used it. This approach is not working for me. I've used it myself when I've been practicing law. This is not working for me, this approach, especially if somebody's extremely aggressive. I've used it in negotiations. Number 9 is just say, okay. Especially if they say something that they think is going to be extremely inflammatory. I want a divorce or I want to, just say, oh, okay. And then what are they going to do? I'm cutting you off financially. Okay. When they throw out these threats or whatever, and you just say, okay, there's nothing else more than they can say. Because there's no more threat there. There's no more leverage. And by the way, which ones are you liking, guys, so far? I want to know in the comments. Let me know which one is your favorite so far. And if these are sounding good, I want you to say that too. Say sounds good in the comments. And number 10 is, if we're going to continue to communicate, I'm going to have to ask you to speak to me in a way that's respectful. You're going to have to be respectful. Be respectful. Nobody can argue with that. And if they do, then you can get up and walk away. Nobody has the right to speak to you in a way that's disrespectful. I always say, you know what's negotiable? Contracts, issues, terms. You know what's not negotiable? Your self-respect, your self-esteem, who you are. Let's dive in. These phrases are not just words, they are tools of empowerment for you, specially crafted to help you reclaim your voice so that in the face of manipulation and control, you've got something to do, something to say. And I know that they work. You know why I know? Because I've been recognized as one of the top attorneys in the country. And I've got a USA Today best-selling book, Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And I've got millions and millions of views on this channel. So if you're new here and you haven't subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Make sure that you subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. So number 1 is, I respectfully disagree. When a narcissist tries to belittle you, tries to belittle your opinion, calmly state, I respectfully disagree. It asserts your stance without escalating conflict. So what you want to do is you want to be able to have that invisible Teflon boundary that comes down around you so that you can start to look at them as if they are a little toddler having a tantrum on the floor, and that you can step back. I say stop, swap, and soar, right? And then you just stop, look at them. I respectfully disagree. And you can take your moment and step back. No, they're not going to like it, but it will be very healing and helpful for you. So that's phrase number 1. So number 2, I understand that's how you feel. It acknowledges their feelings without validating their unjust accusations. You don't want to have to deal with their false accusations. And that's something that I know you have to deal with all the time. And if you are dealing with that, I've got a free Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet, which you can get at winmynegotiation.com. Definitely grab that because it will help you. I've had lots and lots of people get it. I understand that's how you feel. That's a really good one too. Number 3 is no thank you. I mean, simple yet powerful. This phrase sets a very clear boundary. Do they like boundaries? No, but it helps you. These again are helping you reclaim your voice. That's what this is about, right? Your voice. Number 4, I need to think about that. Again, you get to take a pause. Hit that pause button. Use this when a narcissist demands a quick decision to pressure you. Don't allow yourself to be pressured. Don't allow yourself to be in a situation where you have to be pressured into feeling like you have to do something, especially when they're getting ready to ask you to sign something. Never sign something without knowing what you're going to sign, without knowing what you're going to do. I've seen it over and over and over again, especially as a lawyer. No, thank you. Or I need to think about that. Both of those phrases together are very, very good. Just put no, thank you. I want you to put that in the comments right now. No, thank you. Number 5 is that doesn't work for me. And it's actually kind of a soft one. That doesn't work for me. Asserts your needs while the narcissist is proposing their agenda on you, right? Have them stop putting that agenda over your head, especially things that aren't reasonable, which is, kind of like a lot all the time, right? I need to think about this. It doesn't work for me. All these are helping you assert your voice. And if you need support, join my free private Facebook group. It'll be very helpful for you. Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Good stuff. Next one. Ooh, this is a good one. Let's stick to the facts. You know, what do? They go all over the place. They're all over the place. They're back in 1984 half the time or whatever it is that they do, and they're gaslighting you. And you know what? Let's stick to the facts. It redirects that conversation into where you are now instead of veering off into manipulation land, gaslighting land. Let's stick to the facts. And if they don't want to, you don't have to. You don't have to have this conversation right now because you know what? You can go right into phrase number 7, which is, I don't play this game. I don't play this game. Use this to shut down the manipulation right away. The trick is when you're delivering these lines, not to allow yourself to be triggered, not to allow yourself to get emotional. That's really, really, really important because you don't want to allow yourself to get pulled in, sucked in, drawn into the emotion of it. Because the more you can remain calm, the better you're going to be as far as being able to deliver all of this in a way that's not being drawn into the mud. Because if they bait you and go fishing and you're drawn into the mud, now they have you. Now they have you. I don't play this game. Just deliver it. Next one is number 8. We're almost halfway there. Number 8 is, I'm not comfortable with that. And I have seen situations as a lawyer, and you guys know that I've been recognized by US News as one of the best lawyers in America. I've done trials, I've done mediations, thousands of them. I've seen a lot of situations where people have been asked to do things that aren't comfortable for them. If you have been asked to do things that you're not comfortable with, and I'm not just talking about signing agreements here. I mean, I've seen people who've been asked to do sexual things that they're not comfortable with, or social situations, all sorts of things that they're not comfortable with. You can set your boundaries. What's negotiable are contracts, issues, and terms. What's not negotiable is your self-worth, your self-respect, your self-esteem, who you are. I'm not comfortable with that is a very polite way of setting boundaries. And you cannot have leaky boundaries around who you are. That's how you got drawn into this in the first place. When you start to say things like, well, you know, I just want to be nice. I don't want to be the bad person. That allows you to get drawn into doing things that are against your gut. I'm not comfortable with that is fine. It's a good thing to say. It's okay. You're allowed to be who you are. Give yourself permission to be who you are. Number 9 is, this conversation is over. You are allowed to get up, stand up, walk away, and feel your sense of self-respect. Give yourself permission. It's essential for when a narcissist is being abusive, demeaning, judgmental, condescending, disrespectful. Give yourself permission. That's phrase number 9. Phrase number 10 is, I'm choosing not to respond. And you're allowed to say that too. Give yourself permission to not respond. Great for deflecting baiting attempts. You can say things like that, right? That's your perspective. That's another one. Phrase number 11. That's your perspective. That's the way you think. It's not the way I think. I used to say that other lawyers, that sort of thing, even in situations like that, that's your perspective, not mine. It acknowledges their viewpoint without having to agree with them. It's like you're observing it. The next one is, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I've been in social situations where people have said things that are just flat out wrong. That's fine. You don't have to agree with people. Once you get old enough, you start to realize, you know what? People can just say whatever comes out of their mouth, and who cares? What difference does it make? It just doesn't matter. They can say, think, or do whatever they want. It really doesn't matter. I'm not going to argue with you. Don't escalate situations. It just stops escalating situations in their tracks. So that's number 12. Number 13 is another, one that's sort of similar. And they hate this too. You know why? Because they want that supply. They're baiting, they're fishing, they're trying to get you into it. Come on. And you're going, no, I'm not doing it. So phrase number 13 is, I won't participate in this. I'm not going to participate in this conversation. And especially when the conversation turns toxic, but they want you to so bad. So phrase number 14 is another one that's similar. That's an interesting opinion. It's an interesting perspective is another way to say that. Very neutral, very non-committal. It doesn't give them the reaction. They want reaction. They want supply. That's why they won't give you up a lot of times. They moved on sometimes to other supply, and you're like, why won't they leave me alone? Because they're looking for supply from you. That's why when you go to create your strategy, my SLAY method, strategy, leverage, anticipate in you, you've got to figure out a source of supply, that diamond level supply, that's more important for them to protect and defend than the supply that they get from jerking you around, and then threaten that source of supply. And that's what I teach you how to do in the SLAY method. Next is number 15. We made it here. We made it all the way to number 15. Do you know what it is? It's let's agree to disagree. Or another way I say it is, I agree with you. I used to say to opposing counsel, we can disagree without being disagreeable. It's a way to end a circular argument. If one person is fully entrenched and another person is too, you're going to be parallel forever. You're never going to get anywhere. If you are in a situation where you just don't even know where to begin, you're thinking, I just don't know what to do. So many times people say to me, where do I start even dealing with this high conflict personality, right? I want to give you a place to start today where you can, by the end of this video, go, okay, now I've got something concrete, some place to go. I'm going to go back to that video, and I've got some tools that I can actually use, that I can dive deep into and go, that's the thing. I actually feel more courageous today. I actually feel like I've got some baby steps that I can actually use, because what you're doing is you're actually righting a ship over here. You're actually turning your power around. If you've been conditioned by somebody, maybe it's a boss at work. It could even be that neighbor that you don't want to have to face, right? Especially if you're an empath or you're an empathetic person, and just kind of like, I just don't want to have to see that person. I want to give you those tools to make you feel a little bit better today. I always say, negotiate your best life. Today's a great day to start negotiating your best life. I hope you watch all the way to the end of this video, because that's what I say at the end of every single one of my videos. Today's a great day to start negotiating your best life, because I feel like negotiating your best life starts with the very first negotiating that you have to do with yourself in the morning for your own self-worth, right? Taking back your power. And that's what I feel like we have to do a lot of times, is use your own mindset. I want to give you some killer phrases today that are going to help you feel like, okay, I got something that I can start transforming those difficult situations, those difficult interactions. The very first thing you're going to have to do, though, is put that invisible barrier down around you and start looking at this person as if they are a toddler having a tantrum on the floor, and you are just observing them. You start observing their behavior to them as if you're watching a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. I can see that you're upset. I can see that you're angry. That's the very first thing that I tell people to do, because you want to kind of almost take yourself out of it and not take things personally. So that's the first thing I really want you to do. You've got like this Teflon down around you, and then you've got like these Superman bullets coming off of you, or the Wonder Woman bracelets on, because you've got to start doing that. And then just like kind of like pretend like you're just reporting the news, looking at them. All right. So I'm going to give you the 5 phrases, but the first thing I want you to do is just imagine that invisible barrier is coming down around you. And the other thing I'm going to tell you before I give you the 5 phrases is never jade, right? So even though I love jade, I want you to remember, because, I'm half Chinese, so I do love jade, but I'm going to tell you to never jade, which is Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. So never jade. And I want you to put that in the comments below. Never jade, never justify, argue, defend, or explain, because you're not going to do that. You're just going to observe their behavior to them. Phrase number one is, I understand your perspective. I understand your perspective. Here's another viewpoint. So you're acknowledging them. I hear you. I see you. I understand you. I see what you're saying. Anything of that nature is kind of that same sort of thing. And when you're acknowledging them and then you are introducing you're introducing them. I hear you. I see you. I understand you. I see where you're coming from, but here's another viewpoint. It especially works in a professional setting, but you can also have it be in any kind of a setting, whether you're having a conversation with your spouse, you're having a conversation with your next door neighbor, whoever it is that you're having a conversation with. It definitely works. It turns any kind of disagreement into a constructive dialogue. If somebody is raging mad, you're still going to say, listen, I can see that you're angry. I can see that you're upset. We can have this conversation when you've calmed down. So you're definitely always going to do that, no matter who it is, no matter what it is. Phrase number two is, let's work to find a solution that's going to benefit us both. No matter who it is, no matter what it is, even if you're dealing with a raging narcissist and at some point in the conversation, you know that they're never going to agree on anything, you're still going to fluff or favor vomit later, which is what I call it. You're fluffing up their ego to ethically manipulate the manipulator, because down the road, you're probably going to have some kind of leverage where you're going to close in on them and use what I call their diamond level supply to come up with a particular solution to threaten a source of supply that's more important for them to keep than the supply that they're getting from jerking you around. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to get my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com. I will help you get started with that. It's totally free. It's a free ebook. Many people have won their entire negotiations just on that. I think probably over 100,000 people have downloaded that. So go get it for free. The next one is, I appreciate your input, or thanks for the feedback, or something like that. That's an interesting perspective. Whatever you want to say that's somewhere along those lines. I need time to reflect on this. I will take that in. I will consider that. Something to that effect that makes them think that you are pondering whatever it is that they said. When you are making them think that you are taking a pause, that you are listening to their perspective, that's all they want a lot of times. Whether or not you're actually going to do it, consider whatever it is that they're asking you to consider. It does not matter in that moment, now does it? If it's a super high pressure situation where they're like pushing on you in that moment, tensions are super red hot and you need for them to cool down, you just need to release some of that pressure in that moment. It's sort of like one of those steam pots and you need to release that. I will consider it. Thank you for the feedback. I will pause. I will consider this. That's all you need to say in that moment. That will help you to diffuse. Does this make sense? Give me a yes in the comments below if this is making sense to you so far. So yes, makes sense. Give me a feedback, some comments, all right? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are so far, because I want you to have the power in your hands. And if you're trying to deal with this on your own, make sure that you join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. I want to see you in there. I want to see you getting your power back as well. Next is, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Can you clarify? Especially if you need some clarification, ask them to give you some clarification on that. It shows that you're actively listening, that you care, that you want more information. Even if you don't, so what? Make it seem like you do. Oh, get them talking. It gets, a lot of times, they tell you more on their position. Gives you a little recon too. Many times I've gotten actually more information from the other side because they just happen to tell me on their own. Have them talk to you about that as well. That's another one that really, really works a lot of times. It also helps to avoid misunderstandings a lot of times, especially if you can follow up with a writing. Make sure you always do that anyway. Follow up with a text, follow up with an email. Appreciated the conversation that we had today. Here's what we discussed. Here's what we agreed upon. Even if it was just a text, can you please confirm that this is what we talked about? You're going to want to do that anyway. And finally, phrase 5 is I respect our different opinions. Sometimes we're going to have to agree to disagree. I always say we can disagree without being disagreeable. That was one of my favorite phrases to use, especially with opposing counsel when I was practicing law full time and I had raging narcissists as opposing counsel who, oh my God, were so disagreeable many times. And they would be attacking me personally often. And I would say, we can disagree without being disagreeable. Perhaps we just need to, go to court on this particular matter. You don't need to be crazy about it. Acknowledge differences. Apparently we're not going to agree on this particular matter. That's okay. I respect your opinion. If you're in a work situation, you might even want to try to find common ground. Areas where you do agree, that often does help because a lot of times when you do find strings, areas where you do agree, it does help to actually move things along. You find momentum as to where you do agree. So that all helps. So these are 5 killer phrases that will diffuse any conflict and help you move your situation that could be super high conflict, super red hot, super tense, stressful, and lower the temperature, lower the conflict, lower the stress level, and make life a lot easier for you. I'm going to count from 5 to 1 because I want to give you the best one last. Oh, yes, I'm saving the best one for last. So, number 5, we're going to start with number 5. Number 5 is I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You start with I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you don't understand. I'm sorry that we can't agree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You just say I'm sorry because it's a disarming phrase. Now be careful because remember that anything you put your hand to is a trial exhibit and you don't want to be apologizing for things and then make it look like you're actually saying something that you did something wrong. What you're doing is you're disarming. You're disarming. Remember, you're shutting down this narcissist. You're disarming the narcissist. You're reclaiming your control. Sometimes you can just say, I'm sorry that we don't seem to be on the same page. It seems that there's a misunderstanding here. I'm sorry that it seems that you're upset and perhaps we need to continue this conversation another day. You can even say, I'm sorry, it seems that I maybe didn't explain this to you properly and we can't continue this now. Whatever it is that you need to say, it's a disarming phrase. It's something that they're not going to say unless it's a manipulation because everything they do is a manipulation. So number 5 is I'm sorry. It's just a way to shut them down, disarm them. Number 5, I'm sorry. Number 4 is we can resume this conversation when you're ready to respect me, because do not sit and have a conversation with anybody when they're being disrespectful to you. If they're screaming at you, if they're yelling at you, if they're being derogatory toward you, if they are saying things that are, not productive, you don't have to sit there and have a conversation. You're not getting anywhere with it anyway. So you can just say, we can resume this conversation when you're ready to be respectful. And then excuse yourself. Here's the one thing that I say all the time. There are certain things that are negotiable, and there are certain things that are not. Terms of contracts are negotiable. Your self-worth, not. Your self-respect, not. Ever. So you can always resume conversations when the person is ready to be respectful. And you don't have to yell, and you don't have to scream, and you don't even have to say it with emotion. You don't have to say, we can resume this when you're ready to be respectful. You don't have to be like that. Okay. You don't have to respond in kind. You just say, we can resume this conversation when you can be respectful. Thank you. And then nicely get up and walk away. Okay. And if they say, don't walk away from me, that's not respectful, blah, 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 whatever it is, you just say, oh, that's not respectful. Thank you. And that's it. And if you agree, put respect me in the comments right now. I want you to put that in the comments right now. Respect me, because I want you to remember that that's one of the most important things in any relationship, is to demand respect of yourself. And that's an okay thing. That's not only an okay thing, this should be a non-starter. Okay, it should be a non-starter. Number 3 is I agree. And again, this is something you got to be very careful with what you're doing, because remember, everything is a potential trial exhibit. So you can say things like, I agree with that that's what you believe. I agree that that's what you think. I agree that we disagree. I agree that that's your perspective. In other words, you're not agreeing with anything. You're just agreeing that that's what they think, but just hearing the words, I agree, is just sort of like a salve for people. It's sort of like music to their ears. So when you say, I agree, it's sort of like, okay, they hear, I agree. So that's number 3. I agree. Number 4 or number 2, I'm working my way up. So whether it's number 4 or number 2, depending on how you're like looking at it, is no. Just no, because that will definitely shut them down, especially if they're used to you saying yes, especially if they're used to you going along to get along, because that happens a lot of times when you're in these relationships. I know, I've been there too, but then you end up regretting it. La, 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 I know how it is, right? That one is the next one. It's just no, especially if you just really don't want to do that thing or whatever. Just say no. Just say no, like the old drug campaign. Just say no. All right, ready? You ready for that last one? Are you so ready to find out what that last one is? A good one. I told you it's a good one. This is the most important one. This will definitely shut down that narcissist. This is definitely going to help you reclaim that control. This is definitely going to help you disarm them. They hate this word in a lot of ways, actually. Whatever. This is literally the one word that narcissists absolutely cannot stand. Let's dive into unmasking narcissists, 4 Jedi-like tactics to crush narcissists in mediation. What do we start with here? We start with powerful body language. Powerful body language. If you walk into a negotiation and a mediation and you are fearful of them, they can tell, they can read you, they can read that body language on you. And I want you, even if you are sweating, even if you are scared, even if you are like dying, here are some ways that you can show up for yourself in a way that looks powerful. All right. So remember, we're on our mission to right this ship, to course correct. I talk about step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free, right? And if you haven't heard me say this before, it's step 1 is where you stop that conditioning, stop that retreating. You're going to start walking forward instead of backward. And this is where you're going to start drawing boundaries and start doing some things that are uncomfortable. Small changes, but pivotal. Step 2, make a U-turn. where you're going to start turning things around, starting to create leverage, start planning for negotiations and shifting that dynamic of power. And then step 3 is breaking free, where you start walking forward and you start presenting your offers. You actually start speaking. You actually start reclaiming your sense of self, slowly but surely, knowing that somewhere inside of yourself that you never left. And that's that really authentic power, which totally beats their fake power every single time. How can you have some nonverbal communication, that power body language? You walk in, you've got eye contact. You look at them and you go, you know what? I'm not afraid of you. I'm here. I'm looking at you. And you're going, hello, I see you. I'm here. And you go, you stick out your hand, you shake their hand, depending on who it is that you're dealing with. You're showing them, I'm strong, I'm powerful. Confident handshake. And that's the only appropriate expression of touch. Now, I'm talking about this. This is not if you are in a domestic violence situation. You do not need to do that, obviously. For the most part, I think that in a mediation situation, you should be in separate rooms. I think that you should do something that I call caucusing, other than for the opening. Let the mediator do their little opening spiel. Hi, I'm the mediator. This is your day of opportunity. This is who I am, blah, 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 blah. That's all you need to do. Separate rooms for the rest of the time. Other than that, you can just walk in. I'm powerful. Commanding posture, commanding presence. I'm strong. I stand in my power. Even if your breath is being taken away, you stand there. You show you are not backing down. Remember, this is from the moment that you walk into that room. And even if you are on a Zoom video, by the way, and that camera is turned on, you are sitting in your seat and you are sitting tall and you are showing that you are not backing down. And by the way, same with your tone of voice. Narcissists see if you're scared at all, they feel that. They know that they still got this control over you. You want to show that they don't have any power over you anymore. As far as your personal appearance goes, you're going to want to wear clothes that make you feel confident, that present that you feel confident, that you feel respect for yourself. Wear something that makes you feel like $1,000,000, that makes you feel powerful, that makes you feel like you know what you're doing. Whoever the most powerful version is of yourself, that's the person that is showing up. Your body posture, you're not slouching. You're showing to that narcissist and everybody else in the room too, that you are not somebody to be beaten, that you are a winner, that you're telling everybody in that room how you're carrying yourself. Before you even open your mouth, they know who you are when you walk into that room. You stand up straight. Body posture can be used to determine a person's level of respect as soon as they walk into a room. So bad posture, like slouching, can be an indicator of a lot of different things, including whether or not somebody is bored or involved in a conversation or whatever. So, make sure that you are sitting there and they know that you know who you are right from the beginning. Personal space, narcissists can be extremely sensitive about their personal space. So be very careful about that when you're dealing with whoever this narcissistic person is. Be hyper aware of that personal space issue. And you just remember that your hand gestures, whatever it is that you're doing, you're very purposeful about it. You're not fidgeting, you're not playing with your hair, you're not finger tapping, you're not hand wringing, you're not twisting your rings. You want to avoid looking nervous. You want to avoid looking anything but totally confident. You want to make sure that you are not slouching. You're not sitting in the chair like, oh, bored or whatever. You sit in the chair in a powerful way. And you can actually use some of the power body language moves that there are out there, like steepling shows that, you are confident. You're making a point over here, or You put your arm over the chair drape shows confidence, openness, that sort of thing. Leaning into a conversation when you're sitting in a chair. Avoid jiggling your feet, avoid jiggling your legs too much, because then that can make you appear to be nervous. So those are just some things that you can do for looking confident and strong from a body language point of view. All right, so that is the first thing for your Jedi power in your mediation. The second thing that you can do is be prepared with your leverage. Make sure it's something that's going to threaten a source of narcissistic supply that is going to be more important for them to keep than the supply that they get from jerking you around. Remember, I talk about diamond level supply versus coal level supply. Make sure that you remember that. That is going to be very, very, very important when looking at how to deal with narcissists. And I have a whole video on how to create leverage with narcissists, which you're definitely going to want to check out. When you're dealing with narcissists, there's a couple of different types of narcissistic supply, and understanding those forms of supply is going to be really, really important. Understanding strategy, understanding leverage, understanding anticipate. My whole slay method is going to be very, very critical. And having two options for them: the option that you want them to take, and then the option that they're not going to want to take. And having that neutral mediator present it to them is going to be really, really critical as well. And if you don't have my Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet, which is a free 15-page e-booklet, would highly recommend that you get that at winmynegotiation.com. It will help you so much in preparing to crush them in mediation. It's free. It will help you. Make sure you go get it. It's not one of those freebies that doesn't really do anything. It's a freebie that's actually super substantive. So make sure you go get that right now. And just put in the comments right now, I'm going to win. I'm here to win, which is what you're going to do, because what follows after I am is your order that you are placing to the universe, and you're here to win. And that's what's happening, right? So make sure that you are here to win. The next thing is be prepared to walk away. Be prepared to go to trial if you need to. Understand what your choke point is. Know what your risks are. When you go in there, if you're not prepared to go to trial or walk away, then they know they have you. Understand that you're ready to take option A or option B. Be so ready to go, either one is fine with me. Your choice. You want to control that narrative. You want to be in the position of power. So you've got to have done your homework. You want to be the one telling that mediator what's going to go down. And so you got to be prepared with how it's going to go down. You want to have your offer 1 ready to go, offer 2 ready to go. You want to know how this is going to shake out, and you want to know what your choke point is, what your walk away point is before you get there, because the day is going to be stressful. And by the way, you need a lot of support around this. So, this whole idea of dealing with a narcissist when you're negotiating and all of this whole process is stressful. So, I hope that you have the kind of support that you need. Please join my private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, and make sure that you get therapy. And if you don't have access to therapy we have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp, and you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get access to that. It is a sponsor on this channel, which means that we receive commissions. You don't pay any extra. We just want you to have access to help and support that you can trust. Next is you need to be prepared to make them sign the agreement. So what I would do is I would have an agreement in Word format or even on Google Docs or something like that, ready to go with what it is that you want, but ready to be edited as well. It's going to get changed. It's going to be obviously go through many different formats. But if you have kind of the basics there, the boilerplate language and all the other things sort of spelled out so that all you have to do is change the terms as you go along, then it can be just ready to hit print and get them to sign, because they will change their mind about it before they even get to the parking lot. If you let them leave and you think you've got a deal and all you have to do is type up the terms, they will have changed their minds. You will never pin them down. It's like, how do you solve a problem like Maria? How do you pin a wave and how do you catch a wave and pin it down? You're never going to get them to sign because they get off on jerking you around and playing this game with you, having you all over the place. And many times they find a lawyer who plays the same games. And you know who's paying the price for all of that? You're paying for a lawyer for a 15,000 iterations of an agreement for the next several weeks. And then you never end up getting anything signed anyway. And meanwhile, your emotions are all over the place and you never got anything signed because you thought you had an agreement. You thought you had a deal at the end of mediation, but you didn't. And then you end up having to go to trial anyway. So if you want to make sure you get a deal done, have an agreement ready to go.